Few minutes before we were to head to the weaving chamber, I made my way to the back room of the bar and rummaged through my bag of wedding supplies. At the bottom lay my precious treasure. I took out the beautiful book and held it in my hands with gravity, breathing in the imaginary smell of power. It wasn't great power, it was an amateur-friendly amount of power, but power nonetheless. It was a curious kind of book, like spells for dummies sort of thing, with everything explained step by step, as if the author was talking to an idiot without a clue what magic was. It was perfect for me. But from everything we've heard here about mages, it was also unusual. They did not genuinely fancy babying incapable simpletons and believed that most Syrian races weren't even capable of comprehending the arcane. Nice fellow, this, I turned the book around and squinted to read the tiny font in the front. Furian Kava. Thanks, Fairy. I patted the hardcover. It was adorned in such intricate symbols, so magical, I didn't even care if they meant anything. I just couldn't wait to use it. I opened the book on the tabbed page and went over the summoning ritual once more. Oh, you bet I was summoning someone today. But I had to keep it on the down low. If my townsmen knew that, they might not appreciate the idea. True, summoning rituals were amongst the most infamous in the stories. But really, what could I summon that would be so bad? Demons were fairy tales, and when it came to ghosts and such, I did take some precautions. Those undead-related rituals were a pretty dark kind of magic, and this one looked really innocent. The only dark adjacent thing was the drop of blood it required, but what respectable ritual does not require a drop of blood? Come on. Not to mention it made sense. I was about to summon my soulmate, my love, my destined. Of course the book needed to know who I was to bring him to me, and blood was simply the way to go. So, without further ado, I made a small cut on my wrist and let some drip onto the page. I always wondered why people cut their fingers or palms for such things. Even a paper cut their hairs like a bitch. I wasn't gonna go through that for the sake of dramatics. The red droplets soaked into the page. That was it, right? Now all I needed to do was take the book into the weaving chamber and move it through the stream of energy of the connected souls of my dear friends. Hey, before you think it's reckless and that I will break them somehow in my stupidity, let me remind you, this is amateur-friendly magic. I am not casting spells on anyone's soul. I am not affecting their energy. I am just rubbing against it, yeah. I'd done my research. There isn't even a way such an interruption would make the weaver screw up. That's a straightforward procedure, no shenanigans. The worst possible outcome is that my soulmate turns out to be an actual mage. There is already an ego in this relationship. It does not need another one. Hear me, Bookie? No mages, please. Oh, and make him blonde. And tall, and, oh yeah, definitely not from Ekera. That won't fly. All right, let us be off to the bright future. The weaving chamber, also known as wine cellar on the regular day, truly did look mystical for the occasion. The wine racks had been covered with colorful blankets, the ceiling lamps turned off and replaced with a million candles, crowding on every surface and stuffed into every crevice of the room. And on top of it all, it smelled divine in here, thanks to the fresh flowers standing in vases around us. But speaking of fresh, I hoped they'd get to business before the blood dried completely inside my book. Fresh blood was, according to Ferry's notes, vital to the ritual. Rallis and Vyomi lay on the big bed in the middle of the chamber, facing one another and looking lovingly into each other's eyes. Aside of the weaver, there were only 7 more people in the room. The newlywed's parents, Vyomi's little sister, his old flame, don't ask, weird situation, and me. And so the supper, or dessert, commenced. Weaving was an intimate ceremony, and as far as I knew, in many places it didn't even include the closest friends or family. Here, we really weren't too big on boundaries. Things ought to be shared, because if they're not shared, they can't be gossiped about. And what is food without gossip? And what is life without food? So here we were, witnessing the eternal union, the ultimate commitment, the beauty of love itself. I scooted another bit closer over to the weaver, step by step moving into my destined position. If I took it slow enough, I should be able to sneak all the way into the range of the energy stream without raising suspicion. The weaver began the second part of his speech he had prepared for the ceremony, and Rallis threw me an amused glance. Out of the two of them, Vayomi was the romantic. Rallis was as pragmatic as they came, and when it came to traditions, she found the most joy in mocking them. Apparently not even something as grand as this could get her to be serious. And a little bit closer. I winked back at my friend. I kinda wished I could simply be in this moment, enjoy it with them, immerse myself in the importance of it, in the scene and everything, cry happy tears alongside the family. But man, my dream was right here. And I had always been a very goal-oriented girl. The weaver raised his hand with reverence. In the middle of his palm lay 2 small amethysts. He placed one on Vayomi's temple and the other on Rallis's. He then touched 2 fingers of each hand to the stones, and with a slow, smooth motion, he began to raise his hands up, bit by bit pulling strings of purple energy out of Rallis and Vayomi's heads. So that was the soul, huh? Or at least some of it. Suddenly, I was watching the scene mesmerized. Even Rallis closed her eyes and her hands grasped Vayomi's, squeezing them so hard her fingertips went white. Weaving didn't hurt at all, so it had to be the emotions. It finally reached her. And it was finally also reaching me. Rallis, the brat who not too long ago was bullying me at school and tricked me into eating her mud chocolate. Married now. Weaved. Where did the time go? Wait, where did the time go? I almost missed it. Just 1 second, I exclaimed in a whisper and cut right through the purple energy strings with the book. Well, not so much cut as the book was physical while the energy wasn't, but yeah, I slammed it right through. The weaver looked at me in outrage. Mrs. Baizan would have my hide later, no doubt. But I did it. I had it. I took a step back and pressed the book to my chest. So sorry, I thought I saw a fly and I didn't want it to merge into their souls. Well, I tried. A fly cannot merge into souls, the weaver said and shook his head in disbelief. His eyes were very communicative. I could see the invectives being thrown at me, even though he held his tongue at bay. He took a deep breath of exasperation and returned to his task. No more interruptions, please. This is a grand moment. Give in to it and trust me, I know what I'm doing. I could do that now. If only I could tell my dumb heart to calm the hell down, I could do that. Weaving. Rallis, Vayomi, the room, candles. Think of it, Irini. This won't happen again. But in my hands, I held something that would change my own life forever. And the something was pressing right against that racing heart of mine. Yep. There was no stopping the silly thing. It was running a marathon.